Alright, so hopefully this video turns out well, but we're going to go ahead and start with this traditional 8-inch chef's knife. This is a cheap one off of Amazon, quote-unquote Japanese. It's got a pretty thin blade. The edge has been completely dulled on it. It's not sharp whatsoever. I'll grab a piece of paper. And this right here, it's so dull it won't even cut through a sheet of magazine paper there. Right now, what I like to do is these Cubitron 120 belts. We're going to go ahead and start with that. This is just to go ahead and reprofile that bevel that we have going on there. I like to keep my work sharp set to just the 15-degree angle, and I can dip my wrist a little bit if I need to when I'm pulling the knife across, pulling the edge across that belt. Just helps me keep a relatively steady angle for just general purpose. Sorry if that's a little bit loud. We've got to make sure that belt tracking is correct. But I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to make probably a good 2 passes on either side. It's going to go ahead and clean up this bevel here. It's going to cut in a new one, and it should raise a nice burr on both sides to bring us to our next step. So that's going to leave a really rough grit edge on it, but it brings up a burr real nicely on both sides, and just whatever side you end on, it'll finish it off. But that's a really easy way of setting the bevel in there. It just takes a couple passes on that 120 because it takes off so much metal. A lot of people usually worry about the heat on these knives, and they worry about going too slow. But I've noticed it's not really too much of an issue. I've never had to deal with a burnt edge on any of these. They don't really tend to burn the edge off too much. You just have to be a little bit careful taking off too much material on them. So then we're going to go ahead and switch to this. This is a Trizact belt, the A100. It's about a 220 grit belt. This will just go ahead and refine that scratch pattern in there. Just a couple quick passes on this. It should just raise that burr on either side. Like I said, refine that scratch pattern real quick. Awesome. So that was just a couple quick passes right there. Like I said, makes that scratch pattern a little bit nicer to look at. Finishes it up on that right there. For the most part, I like to go ahead and leave it at this 220 grit right here, and it leaves a really nice bitey, toothy edge in it. It's really nice for cutting through meat, cutting through just about everything in the kitchen. You get a lot of grip when you're cutting through just really anything. It likes to help pull the knife through, I guess, more than trying to push the knife through with your own strength or whatever. But next, I'm just going to show how I would finish this knife on off of a 220. So this is the Work Sharp belt that came with. It's a 12,000 grit. This just has a little bit of green compound on it, just some basic everyday whatever green rouge that I found on Amazon. I think that it's probably about a 6 micron particle size. This is on a 12,000 grit belt, so just in that range. This is going to be taking off that burr. We'll just do a couple pretty slow passes on this. I like to push relatively hard on this because this is convexing the edges anyway. It doesn't really roll over the edges or anything like that. So we'll go ahead and take this burr off real quick, and then I'll show you guys what it looks like cutting through a paper towel and then through a piece of magazine there as well. And I'm just watching this as it flips the burr to either side. You'll notice that as you slowly bring it across, less and less of that burr will be showing up. That's those tiny little pieces of metal just flaking off of the edge right there. This part can take a little while. Sometimes, depending on the steel of the knife, depending on if it's something that is going to have a higher hardness, it's going to be a little bit easier to take the burr off. I like to have it on this really slow setting right here. Just makes it a little bit easier. On some of these cheaper knives like this that don't have a super high-end steel on them, I like to turn this up to about the halfway three-quarter point. It just helps remove that burr infinitely quicker. I have with these Work Sharps is that they like to kind of walk across the bench that you're working on. You maybe put pressure down on it, so you got to make sure that you're able to keep it straight, keep it in line. We're just gonna do one more pass on this other side, and this knife should be sharpened off of the 220. Go ahead and wipe this blade off real quick so you guys can see what that edge kind of looks like after all that. Now bear in mind, this is not a super clean knife. This is not going to be the perfect example of how this looks, and I'd prefer to give this a nice wipe down with water and everything like that, but right now I just have a towel for it. That right there is going to leave you with a really, really nice edge. It super, super toothy. It wants to cut through just about everything that you come in contact with. So this is going to be that paper towel off of a 120, 220, and that 12,000 with some green compound, and it'll just slice right through, just right through whatever you're trying to go through right there. Here's that with a piece of that magazine paper. It'll curve S's, it'll take little fine pieces off of it, it'll slice and dice, it'll do just about everything that you want it to do right off of a 220. This is about where I like to leave it at for most of my knives. If I need anything that has a higher polish, like I said, I'll go to that. I'll go to a couple different higher grip belts. I use the Work Sharp belts. I like the X4 medium and the X22 medium and the X4 fine. Those bring that edge to a mirror polish basically, and then I finish on this same 12,000 grit right here. But yeah, basically just as easy as it comes. It's a really quick process with these guys right here. Not really anything different than what you'd see off of a stone if you're doing it with a low grit stone, just cutting in a brand new bevel. On knives that I've already sharpened before, I like to try and maintain them with just a ceramic rod, a honing rod, and then if I need to, I'll come back and cut it in with this the X22 medium belt, just so that I'm not removing too much material with that 220 grit Trizact. If it's gotten bad, got little chips in it, I'll go back to that X22. If it needs to be completely reprofiled, that's when I'll come in with that 120 Cubitron. But otherwise, you'll get basically a razor sharp shaving edge just off of a 220. It makes the process really easy, and I think that with these convex edges, they last quite a bit longer than just a normal average flat grind that you would do on a stone. They just have a little bit more meat behind that edge, and the results just speak for themselves there. You can get nice tiny little fine slivers, or you can, drag that edge all the way through and just bring them down like that. But yeah, that's usually just my process on the Work Sharp.